Bryn, whenever you're ready.
The other day, I was standing around at work, chatting to one of my coworkers, one of those good old boys from Tennessee, and he was asking me about my life. I explained to him that I was American-born but had grown up in South Africa. He nodded along and paid attention, and I felt we had this really good thing going on. It was until he hit me with when did you learn to speak English? Probably at the same time as you. You freaking idiot. But I have Jesus in my heart, so I didn't say that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the real problem in the United States today. America and I have this misunderstanding when it comes to Africa. And by Africa, I mean the 54 countries that encompass the African continent. So let's look at the problem, causes, and find some solutions to the issue of making one thing Africa, all things Africa. There are two parts to this problem. Misconceptions about the country of Africa and the color of Africa. First of all, there are actually people out there that think Africa is a country. I don't mean you guys. You're educated. You never misunderstand anything about other parts of the world. But some people do, especially South Dakotians. They have to Google a lot about that, at least according to Google Trends. To them, Africa is just a big blob of land with a bunch of people who live in huts. And somehow civilization has not touched these remote, distant people. And they live as they have for 1,000 years. And as you say in this country, that's whack. It might sound like the most basic of statements, but it's one people need to hear. Africa is not a country. It's a continent. Thinking that Africa is one big homogeneous people group is ignorant and offensive to the 54 distinct countries. It's offensive to the 3,000 tribes living on the African continent. It's offensive to the Luba, Dagbon, Anharis, Natolis, Hutu, Shono, Bromo, Bigbo, Bokoto, Bangwa, Bois, Igwe, Ikek, Foi, Fuqua, Xhosa, and Zulu. Can you even fathom 3,000 different tribal customs and traditions? And even that in itself is a misconception. Not all people living in Africa belong to a tribe, or are even black. Which leads to my second misconception people have about Africa. It's color, or should I say colors. Back at work, I was chatting to one of my drive-thru customers when she asked me where I was from, and I told her proudly that I was from South Africa. But she did that thing where she looks at me, looks at my skin, looks at me, looks at my skin, and awkwardly goes, "But girl, you're white." Jesus was working, y'all. Saying that everyone in Africa is black is like saying that everyone in America is white. It's like saying that everyone in America wears cowboy hats. Nobody does that here. Except for that one weird guy on campus. It's offensive to the white Africans, some of which have lived there for hundreds of years. Shout out to Great Britain for that one. So what pops into your head when you think Africa? Or South Africa? Is it barren scrubland? Herds of cattle? The red feet staining clay baking beneath an African sun? Definitely. Is it walking past herds of elephants on your way to school? Which of course is a little one-room hut made out of sticks and elephant dung. And it's definitely greeting everyone with Wakanda forever! That was just a face, guys. Or is it more like this? This is my house. Maybe it's more like this. This was my town. This was my town. And this was my school. We need to discuss why people think Africa is so poor. People have this idea that Africa is this dirt poor country, when in reality, it's a land full of riches. In her article, The Myth of African Poverty, writer Gina Moore comments that the Democratic Republic of Congo, a country in Africa, contains $24 trillion worth of minerals below its surface. That's 1/3 more than the American GDP. Africa is rich, y'all. Bling, bling. These misconceptions have two causes: ignorance and entertainment. First of all, people don't know what they don't know. And they don't want to know what they don't know. And the result of that is them not knowing anything. This is further evidenced by the dozens of lists on the internet commenting the misconceptions people have about Africa. There's even a list on Wikipedia called Stereotypes About Africa. But stupidity isn't the only issue. Entertainment has a huge part to play in the misconceptions people hold about Africa. Blockbuster hit Black Panther. Costume designer for the blockbuster hit Black Panther, Ruth Carter, says that she borrowed influences from across the continent. In an interview with The Atlantic in 2018, Carter detailed her thought process. She used headdress from the Ndebele women of South Africa, prints and beading from the Akan women of Ghana, and beading and textiles from the Igbo, Maasai, Hinda, and Tuareg people. These people groups span 10 different countries. While this is admirable, it can reaffirm the idea that all looks and colors of Africa are the same. It groups them together in your mind. In 2011, there are these researchers from the Statistics Department who decided to sit around on their bones and watch the telly all day for any type of news that had anything to do with Africa. Out of the thousands of hours that they watched, they found that 5 majority countries were mentioned: the Congo, South Africa, Seychelles, Kenya, and one other country I can't remember right now. Coverage of the movie Black Panther was more frequent than all other movies put together. So what can be done? There are solutions for the idiots and for the entertainers. First of all, educate yourself. It's okay to admit that you don't know everything. And when you meet a white chick who says she's from Africa, don't freak out. Examine your language. Don't just say Africa when you mean something more specific. And don't ask people to speak African. My own teammate, asked me to put African in this speech. Secondly, we need more accurate representation of actual African countries in film and entertainment, like the movie Mandabi, written by Senegalese filmmaker Moussama Sembene. In Policy and Practice by Malcolm Mahedo and Joe McKinney, they comment that certain media shows the African people as bystanders in their own affairs. We need movies that don't show these people from these rich and vibrant countries as bystanders, or side characters, or villains in some white guy's story. Sorry, Tom Hanks, you're not the captain anymore. So let's recap. Africa is a continent made up of 54 diverse countries. Ignorance and entertainment have a huge part to play in the misconceptions people hold about Africa. With a little bit of education and a whole lot less money spent on Marvel movies, we can all learn a little bit. I know that I look and sound like I was born in the good old US of A. And I was. But that's not the point. I'm sick and tired of drive-through customers, coworkers, and my own friends making gross generalizations about the place that I call home. Stop making one thing Africa, all things Africa.